We haven't ever really touched on Plato yet on this channel, but I'm still reading through Maps of Meaning by Jordan Peterson, and I'm not finding a whole lot we haven't already covered. So I wanted to share with you something I learned in my university class this week that I thought was pretty interesting. Plato uses a cave as a comparison for people going through life. So he tells a story about three prisoners who are shackled in, well, a cave. The only thing that these three men can see is the cave wall and the light that reflects off of it. They can also hear sounds echoing throughout the cave, and they see a faint light from the cave's entrance. These are the only tools they have to help them understand the world. Now, every once in a while, someone walks behind them or walks a horse behind them, and they see the light reflected off of the cave wall. They understand the shadows naturally as the world. One day, one of the prisoners' shackles break, and he curiously wanders around the cave. Eventually, he walks out into the real world, and the sun is blinding. He can hardly see anything, and it takes hours just for his eyes to adjust so that he can see the actual world around him. However, for the first time, he sees the real world and not the shadow world that he'd been watching his entire life. He sees the sun and real people and real horses, and he comes to understand that the shadow world that he'd been so used to is just a cheap model of the real one. So his first thought is that he needs to go back to the cave to free these other two men so that they can experience the real world for themselves. So he goes back and explains to them that they've been living a subpar existence. He tells them about the sun and what real horses and what real people look like. He tells them that the world they've been viewing on the walls of the cave isn't a world at all. Now imagine the possible reactions they may have. Imagine what you would do if you were them. They came to the conclusion that he'd lost his mind, and they started beating him for the danger that he posed to them. This is an unfortunate reality in our world. Discover a truth, and you're extremely excited to share it with people, but those people might beat you because they're afraid of reality beyond their own cave. This is why a philosopher king in Platonian speak must suffer, because his knowledge will frighten the uneducated masses and they will attack him for it. So what's the solution? Well, Plato thought that only intelligent people should be allowed to vote. In fact, he was very much against the idea of a democracy. We don't necessarily know the answer, but we're testing it right now in the West. That's all I've got today on Plato. I really loved this story. If you enjoy this kind of content, do stay tuned for more. I update my audience weekly on topics ranging from psychology to philosophy to politics and book reviews and all kinds of stuff. So I'm Muslim Melanezy. Thanks so much for checking in today. I hope you enjoyed the video. And make sure to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you, and have a great day.